are listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset. We want to help demystify marketing to reduce risk, drive more and better opportunities, and grow your business.
All right. What is the buzz? The music suddenly just turned off all on its own. So we got some different theme music today. What's the buzz from Jesus Christ Superstar to match our bees? So we had bees and buzz. So anyway, I'm Pete Montfrey, the host of this little party. We'll call it episode 120 of the B2B Marketing Mindset. We're broadcasting live on LinkedIn and YouTube and a couple other places. And I interview sales and marketing industry leaders, rogue disruptors, and people smarter than me to help those who, if you sell expertise, can help you make some better marketing and sales decisions. So today I'm talking to Patrick Prothe, I hope I'm saying that right. A longtime marketer, brand whiz. He's the founder of Design Buda, and he'll tell you more about that. But we're sharing some thoughts. We're talking today about how to build and leverage influence. So what is influence? What it's not. And so if you're a purveyor of expertise, like a marketing agency, a consultant, or anybody that builds for brain power, you'll want to hang with us. But real quick, if you're seeing this video live, do us a big favor, hit like and share. It tells LinkedIn to share the video farther and wider. But it also helps me feel good about myself. I just really want to be liked. So, but hey, Patrick, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Peter. So thrilled to be here. Look forward to this discussion.
What's it like to sit in the dark while the intro's babbling on?
It's relaxing. I'm in a moment.
Is it relaxing? That's good. Somebody on Reddit called me a LinkedIn influencer last week, and like it wasn't a compliment. You know what I mean? Like this freaking guy. And I'm like, I don't think I'm really influencing anybody, but I hope people are at least learning from it. But the word influence is an influencer, and it got me thinking about that. And you and I talked a little bit, and it's got some baggage. But for people that sell expertise, the average dumbass Redditor doesn't know the difference between some duck-billed Botox harpy from Instagram who decided to wander over into LinkedIn, and programs like this one where our lips are pretty anatomically normal, and our goal here is to educate and share our knowledge pretty freely with the world. We're not making a lot of money doing this.
Right. Yeah. I think it's
this podcasting business.
Yeah. I think influence is the eye of the beholder, and there's good and bad, and there's superficial and substantial.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a bit more in detail, I think. And I think it's a really interesting concept. Like I mentioned right before we went on, I said, it's not something I've really thought about that consciously, but it's become second nature to me to understand how to build influence, how to use influence, what to influence, like what are you trying to influence, what's the outcome you're trying to influence, because you can influence a lot of different things. And selling these kinds of services, the knowledge services for my whole life, basically, influence super important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it takes time to build. And you just don't go to Target and buy influence on aisle 7.
No, because it's on aisle 12. Don't let them,
right.
But these are the things that become, I think, really important. The stuff that people that have been doing this a long time do instinctively, where other people are like, hey, maybe you're in your first year or your third year, maybe you're a consultant or somebody, or you're trying to put a thought leadership strategy in place around you. And it's good to think about this stuff more specifically, like more deliberately, right? And so let's do this. This will be fun. Give me your definition of influence, and then I'll tell you mine. You show me yours, and I'll tell you mine.
Okay, I look at it from a thoughtful, substantial basis, where you really want to go deep. So I think someone who has influence, they have developed a level of expertise and a domain expertise and some credibility, and they're sharing that with the world. And they have a point of view that might be different than other people, that other people find value, and so people start listening to them, and their thoughts and their point of view carries weight, and thus influence. That's a cursory high-level look at it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. I mean, that's like influence. Are you the go-to person for whatever it is you do in your market, in your accessible market? Oh, that's so
Exactly.
jargon. That was a lot of jargon.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, and there may even be in your market there really is a go-to place. There's the is it Avis that was number two? You
Yep.
know, it's if you're in a big category, you know, number two and number three aren't that bad either. But do people think of you? A friend of mine, he's got a specialized business that does alternative finance. He's positioned himself as the alternative finance guy. Is that as clear as can be? Now, why would someone care about that? That you're the go-to person? You're influencing how people perceive you, but you're doing it in a substantive way, like we talked about the Botox lady. Uh,
Yes.
that's pretty vapid stuff, and I think that's what influencer is kind of taken on this meaning of, you know, pretty vapid stuff. But even they have value because they influence people's behavior in some way. What kind of behavior? Usually buy some stuff. Um, but in our world over here, in the world of selling expertise, our stuff is our knowledge. And so we're really this podcast, the writing, the speaking, doing all these things. Um, you give away your knowledge and it's substantive. I think
Exactly.
the difference between those two types of influencing, but they're powerful. I mean, look how powerful it's become with, you know, kids playing video games on YouTube getting brand deals, right?
Exactly.
They're
Exactly. I mean,
making
it's
more money than you.
exactly that's very, very true. I think
But
it's so powerful. So, I mean, that's why a whole industry has been built around it because people see an opportunity to make some money, and it's like, hey, we'll become an influencer, and then let's give it both a bad name, but also it comes from a position of like there's a lot of value of being able to influence people's perception and opinions and being that
yeah,
go-to.
and behavior, you know, I mean, in marketing being all about, you know, behavior. And so, you know, what I like about working with experts is they usually grasp the stuff pretty fast, right? They're like, oh, yeah, you know, it makes sense. It was always harder with a manufacturing client or something like that. But, you know, this podcast is kind of all from the standpoint of people that provide some kind of professional knowledge as their service, as their offering. And so the more influence you have, I think the other side of that is people will listen to you.
Exactly, exactly. And I think in the knowledge business, if you're competing against a whole suite of people that have similar levels of knowledge, it's like, what is your unique uh, difference? Like, what is your unique point of view that people will find valuable, that they'll pay attention to you, and that you become top of mind for them? I mean, part of being influential is that when someone says, topic X, your name bubbles up to the surface. That
Yeah.
means you've established a level of influence.
Right. And let me tell you, let me hit the two shot here. You know, that translates a lot of times, if you really do this well, it can translate in a very tangible way in terms of what you can bill for your services, your the value in terms of dollars. So you know, why do some consultants charge $100 and some charge $1,000 an hour, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's how much influence do they have? And I know in my life, I've been brought into companies because as an outsider, I will actually have more influence with executive level people than the people that work there, which is
Right.
a testament to what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair and, you know, if they were right in giving that to me, but it's happened many times and it is a powerful thing. So,
Yeah. Just a
uh,
note on that, the $100 versus $1,000 an hour. It's like potentially someone that charges $1,000 could get to a solution faster and more effectively and deliver more value than a person delivering that $100 an hour. So the buyer could achieve a much higher ROI by paying $1,000 versus $100 an hour, and it's worth it.
well, it's that old fable, or you know, about the consultant. Its factory is shut down. There's some kind of problem, and this guy comes in, and they call this guy in, and he walks around for about 3 minutes, and he makes an X with a piece of chalk on a machine, and he says, "That's the problem." And they're like, amazing, that you've just solved our problem. And he says, great, that's my fee is $1 million. They're like, $1 million? You were here for 3 minutes. I said, oh, I'm only charging you $1 for my time. I'm charging you $999.99 because I know where to look.
Yep, exactly.
Right. I don't know if that directly goes to influence, but I've always liked that story.
Yeah.
But so you have Design Buddha.
Yes.
Buddha.
Yeah.
We have a city here called Buda.
Buda.
That's spelled Buddha.
Okay. Yeah, it's
But I'm pretty sure yours is Buddha.
It is Buddha.
Tell me about it.
So Design Buddha is really focused on helping B2B brands, scale and grow their businesses. If a B2B business is struggling with their positioning and their messaging or how they stand out in the noise, we kind of come in and help them build a high performance brand and kind of the marketing infrastructure that's going to help them grow cost effectively. So it's to help, it's building, helping with the right positioning to build the brand, to do the marketing that's going to bring in the right customers, in short.
Well, and that's why, I thought it'd be worthwhile to have you on the program too, because I read up on you a bit there, and it's easy to tell when somebody knows how this stuff works, right? And how to pull all these things together and these ideas together in a way that actually equals business, like more competitiveness, more value perception. So, but a lot of what we're talking about, people might lump into the thought leadership category, which is a thing, but it has a strange reputation now too. My friend David Newman, who's on the program a few weeks ago, he said he thinks thought leadership is dead. Now the thing is what he calls market eminence, right? Or we call market authority, but it's really a means to an end, right? I mean, that all that stuff leads to influence.
Yeah. So thought leadership is getting a rebrand to market eminence. So
and he's leading the charge too.
Exactly. Yeah, he can become the lead influencer for market eminence potentially.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's pretty. I guess it depends on what type of business you're in, but it does apply to a lot more things than just people selling expertise. And I think one of the things I was thinking about is, how do you do that? Well, this podcast is example of how you do that. And so here, let me do a little promo here really quick. The B2B Marketing Mindset is brought to you by the Agency Founders Network.com. It's a private online community of sales and marketing founders who sell their expertise. And it's a place to connect, grow, and partner with people that are actually walking in your shoes, right? Because running a business is a lonely job. I know I'm very lonely. So join for free, and there's no credit card or anything like that. AgencyFoundersNetwork.com, and give and receive a wealth of knowledge. So, hey, that's that business out of the way. So you market your own expertise like me. Like, what do you think has been your biggest challenge? Or newest could be. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, the two of us.
Yeah, so I think for me, I just launched my agency in October. So it's establishing, that base credibility for what I do. I spent a lot of years in the B2B world as a marketing director, building brands, rebranding companies, and building the whole marketing infrastructure. And now I'm bundling that and offering that to businesses, on my own. So for me, it's just really about establishing and building that audience and earning attention. I think attention is one of the most valuable currencies today. It's one of the most it's one of the hardest things to earn, because you need to attract a group of people that know, like, and trust you, and that takes time. That takes putting in the reps, and that takes developing influence, and it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah,
well,
like I said, you'll just buy it off the shelf. It takes.
It really does. I wish more people really understood that. And I don't want people to be discouraged. After a while, I mean, this is episode 120 of this program, right? And so there's something, and I wish I could remember what the source is. Maybe somebody look it up, but a lot of people quit before they've been doing something long enough for it to actually work. They just before, like they were just on the verge. But really, I mean, I've spent almost a lifetime doing it. As I mentioned, we started in 1990, and it's always been about selling our expertise. It's and even moving into different markets, physically moving across the country. And being faced with a very real, like I don't know anyone in this market, in my accessible market here. So I set out to create that business network. And what a great example of very intentionally building influence by honestly just putting in the work. I mean, talking about years of work.
Exactly.
Now there's things you can do to speed it up, right? Writing, speaking, podcasting, picking topics. If you know who you're selling to really well, you've got a really tight ideal client profile. You should understand their pain. And so if you're talking about things that are related to their pain, they're going to notice you, right? You're going to get that attention, but that's only one of like 50 things that have to be pulled together, to make it work. But I think a lot of people underestimate their expertise.
I'd agree. And so two thoughts around that is it takes a lot of time to build, but it takes a lot of time to grow an oak tree too. And the analogy of, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And it's showing up consistently. And like in your case, you've done 120 podcasts, and someone says, "Hey, I'm going to go, I'm really, really inspired by what Peter's doing. I'm going to go start a podcast." It's like, well, you're 120 episodes ahead of them. And, it's pretty darn impossible to catch up, but you can do a podcast with a different point of view and a different audience. Same thing with Seth Godin. I think he's done like 10,000 or 11,000.
I was going to say, yeah, a couple hundred, nothing yet.
Yeah. Like one a day for well over a decade. So, if you want to try and compete with Seth Godin for influence around the marketing world, you're going to have a lot of catch up to do, if ever, because he's not stopping. The other piece about the influence is like, really knowing who you matter to. And I think a lot of people confuse influence with having millions of followers when in reality, as you're selling your expertise, is really thinking about like, who do you matter most to? And really breaking it down on how many people you really do need to reach. And you could attract an audience of 1 million people, but if none of them are relevant, it's not going to make a difference in your business. But you could conversely, you could build an audience of 50 people that know, like, and trust you and really value what you bring to the table, and that's going to rocket your business forward. So it's really about knowing your why and why you matter to whom.
Absolutely. Well said. I mean, I think that's, that'll make a nice clip, actually. You'll like that one, because that makes a lot of sense. And I hope it makes sense to people out there. I found that in the old days, it was writing a book, but now it's kind of come full circle where it is writing a book still.
Yes.
And it's having, how do I put this? You mentioned a clear point of view. You're not just sharing best practices, you're challenging them.
Exactly.
We try to do that on this program. Like I probably encouraged you through emails, disagree with me. That's great. I don't mind. But a lot of times, when it comes to this kind of stuff, there really is a right way and a wrong way, and either people know what they're doing or they don't. And so it's kind of hard to disagree when you're right, actually. And then really the real challenge is from a practical standpoint, like how do you do it? Like crafting it. One is know your audience, know what problems you solve for them. And if you're just starting out, if you're not going to do the research, I mean, there's a whole nother episode right there about research, but use your gut, and then you might have to find your way. But once you find it, and then you find your position, like what do you stand for, or your niche, like here's what, in my case, I work with people that sell expertise. There's a lot of people like that do this. Some of it has to do with what you're trying to build. Like I'm not building any empires. I'm just working with people that I like, a few of them at a time, and enjoying myself. So it's different for each person, but I think the tactics are what I think everybody already knows, or do they not know about
Yeah.
speaking, about writing?
Yeah. The fundamentals matter, and they matter still, and they matter perhaps even more. I think with the, now that we're in the age of AI, you can just, when you mentioned best practices, it just reminded me, like, there are so many claims of, hey, this is the best practice for XYZ. And it's become so generic and average that that's not good enough anymore. And that's why a point of view matters more than ever. And so the challenge is you can't just put superficial content out there and start building a following by just putting like more and more about that and contributing to the noise. No, you really have to drill into your expertise, your point of view, why you matter, and cultivate that, and raise the quality bar, and give people something that they can't get somewhere else.
And easy to say, hard to do. And I'll say
Exactly.
that as somebody that produces a lot of content. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, but I think when I start to notice it is how many invitations I get to be on, to get on somebody else's podcast, or people that mention the podcast. Because what we've kind of done here is, instead of doing 100 different things, we've embraced one thing that we know works. And we're doing that at the best of our ability. And I mean, there's 3 of us in this room right now. I mean, it's not easy at all, but the upside of this is, generally when I talk to somebody in a prospect sort of way, they already know who I am and what I do and what problems I solve. And so we get right to the meat of the conversation. We don't have to spend all that time. Oh, let me tell you what I do. No, they already know. So, and they come to you, which is kind of amazing. And we're actually doing a master class, I think, in about 3 or 4 weeks, for consultants, how to do lead generation. And a lot of it has to do with picking a platform and sharing your expertise. So
Yeah. And then you hit on picking a platform, not 10 platforms, and trying to master all 10 platforms, because then you're just going to burn yourself out and not really cultivate that genuine audience.
Well, and for most
I think.
experts, I still think it's LinkedIn. And so a lot of this course, we were learning how to really get into the LinkedIn algorithm and do it organically, and have people come to you. And look how we're doing it, by the way. It's a masterclass. We're teaching real skills. It's not a superficial thing. It's taken us a ton of time to put this together, by the way. But anyway, there'll be more on that later.
Cool.
If you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, because it is everywhere fine podcasts are consumed, you're only getting half the picture. So head over to b2bmarketingmindset.com and check out the video feed, the whole video feed, and a whole lot more. So, and you can sign up there too as well, and you get content that you wouldn't see otherwise. So, but what a great topic. I think, do you have any sort of final thoughts to share about this idea, and how what you do really directly contributes to influence?
Yeah, I think, a couple things. You mentioned that, when I said that you have to have that point of view, and you can't just like talk about best practices. It's easier said than done, and that is so true. And I think you have to put in the reps to find your voice, and find a place you're going to matter to whom. And I think there's a question I ask, clients and the people I work with, and it's like, what does the world need most that you are most uniquely qualified to deliver? And really focus on that, and then why that matters. And then I've never forgotten when I worked with a chief operating officer at a B2B software company many years ago. He had a plaque in his office that said say/do. It's like, what is your say/do ratio? And it's like, how much do you do of what you say you're going to do? And that's part about the credibility, and that builds natural influence. And I think if you want to build true influence, really focus on what it is you have to offer a select group of audience, and the influence will come once you keep showing up and you keep delivering value. It's almost counterintuitive when you want to build influence. And And it takes putting in the reps. And today's a great day to start. If you don't have it today, I mean, don't be discouraged. I mean, you have to start somewhere. Everybody who's an influencer and who has been influential, they started from zero. And so it's wherever you are, start and keep going.
Yeah. Start. That's great advice, I think, for the final thought. At one time, there's a guy that built this little company called Qualcomm, I think is what it's called. He said, look, this is what he told me. He said, if you're not slightly embarrassed by what you're putting out, you're moving too slow. So get started, because Erwin knows a couple things more than you. I think that this is a topic that could go very deep and wide, but it should be one of the main things that you have in your mind when you're trying to determine the best way for you to go to market. Like, what is your message? What tactics are you going to use? Creating real influence should be part of it. And I think nowadays we have this very short-term thinking where it's like, well, we'll just run some ads and we'll just do some things and we'll do some SEO, we'll do some digital this and digital that. And you got to understand how people work and how their minds work. And that stuff can help, but it's not going to create, it might create awareness and it might create some leads, however you define it. But real influence means being able to name your price. It means clients actually listen to you. It reassures and it creates trust. And if you can do it, it's worth the effort. I mean, exactly. I might be biased. We've put in a lot of time and effort over many, many years. But and those of you that do listen and think what I'm talking about makes sense, I appreciate it. And those of you that don't, I appreciate you too. But anyway, it's been great having you. If you want to just hang on the line here a little bit while we wrap it up, thank you for being on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we're winding up a little bit early. Do this every 2 weeks, live on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can find it at b2bmarketingmindset.com. And we interview people smarter than me. I think today is a raving success in that regard. So join us next time. Thanks, folks.
You've been listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.